Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Clear out my throat. You think you'd be ready when you started this thing. Hey, everybody, I'm Kevin Rouch. This is the Daily. Hope that's not the way this day goes. This is the Daily Scrum, Tuesday, June 10th, here in Studio B in the Elmwood Media Complex. Glad you're aboard today. A little bit of a rant coming up in a minute. Just as the flute gets into the intro. Couple just quick off the top things. We, over the weekend, found out that Favor Aki, the running back from Delaware Hayes, he'll be a senior this year, so we'll still see him in high school, but he committed to Ohio State this weekend. Had a chance to throw up a post on X. I think we're just calling them posts. And he actually liked it, which we're glad to see that he got a chance to see it. We had a picture, I think that Kevin Lamb took during this past football season. Nice picture of Favor Aki running the football. And he is going to be a good one. But yeah, he's got another year left at Delaware Hayes. We'll look forward to seeing him play there. And then, kind of listening today, when I'm, our 1 hour a day is our channel's gift to the world each day. So just 1 hour. That's what I was trying to say. Not inflate our worth. But when I'm not doing this, I'm listening to other folks and had a chance to listen to 97.1 today. Great shows there, but they had a great discussion in the Bo Bishop 3 hour time slot today. They were talking about the money in college sports and can Ohio State keep that going in all the sports that they have. And they had a really good discussion today of it. Our friend Ryan Baker is a producer and on-air person there, so I always try to listen when he's on. And, it's something that we're going to tackle this week. We're going to look at that. There's a lot going on right now with and you saw the announcement. Ohio State's put together another partnership, and they're going to try to, get more investment into their student athletes. The question is going to be for those sports that don't bring in a lot of NIL money and really have a lot of costs and don't pay for themselves. And keep in mind that there is this a misconception, I guess the best way to describe it, that college sports, that football everywhere makes money and it supports everybody else. Well, Ohio State, they make a lot of money. But not even all D1 football programs pay for themselves. Some of them are a drain. And I can tell you, almost every D2, D3, NAIA, junior college football programs lose money. Lots of players, travel is difficult. It's one of the geniuses of the OAC in Division III. They don't travel all that far. And it used to be they only had one non-conference week with John Carroll leaving the OAC. It'll be two now. But they're very regional, which saves on money. You can take a bus. But at the D1 level, there's going to be a lot of discussion, and especially at some place like Ohio State, which now in almost all of their sports, they're in the Big Ten. They're not in all of them. The boys volleyball is not. It's in MIVA, and women's hockey is not. And I'm sure there are others that I'm not thinking of, but you don't necessarily have that Big Ten footprint. But in boys volleyball or men's volleyball at the college level, you've got to go to California and play a little bit because those teams are the best teams across the board. And you want to get out there and test yourselves and play them. And that's what they do. In women's hockey, not so much, but you're still traveling to Minnesota and Wisconsin. So there's going to be a discussion about money for athletes, what it's going to take to remain competitive, how that affects the so-called non-revenue sports, and still allow you to meet your Title IX commitment. And that's all going on right now. I mean, literally this week, people are meeting to discuss some of these items. There's news out of Ohio State. So we're going to, over the next couple of days off air, we're going to do our research and come back to you with an explanation. And one of the nice things, and again, I don't try to mention this a lot, it's a little self-indulgent, but I am a lawyer, have been for a while. And one of the things that I like to do, because I have represented individuals and small businesses for my career, and one of the things that I like to do is to break down, especially legal issues, and present them in a way that I think is understandable. I taught college a little bit as well, and I taught sports law. And it's one of the things that you've got to break down, because it's like any business. When you go down that road of learning language that applies to that business sometimes only. I was reminded of that with the habeas corpus discussions that were going on, politically. But when you get into things like Title IX, when you get into court decisions that have allowed things like gambling in sports, like NIL money in sports, fairly recent vintage, but it's good to be able to break those down. And now, because there are other lawsuits out there, there have been settlements, and they kind of draw upon that language to make sure the settlement is effective. And so we're gonna look at that, because I think that's one of the key issues. And I thought one of the great points raised on that show today by Bo Bishop was that what needs to happen probably to make this sane again is to let football do their traveling, because again, they're at the upper levels, they're making that kind of money to do that. And then maybe with the other sports, do what we see with men's volleyball at Ohio State, where you have a more regional footprint in terms of the league, and then you can decide how much non-league play you want to engage in. So we'll look at that. I think it's a really important subject, and I think it's going to change the face of college sports in the next, I'd say 5 years, but realistically 10 years, that we're going to see a much, much different look and a much, much different organization. And I think this has been triggered by the two things. It's the creation of super conferences with a national profile and the NIL money, because Ohio State football has got to keep up with Texas. It's got to keep up with Georgia and Alabama. Apparently not Clemson as much, because they have said we're not going to engage in that sort of thing, the portal and NIL to that degree. And so maybe they'll change. Maybe down the road a piece, a new coach may change that. But it's going to be different. And for those of us that, we all like what we grew up with, in your teens and 20s, and you kind of it's kind of like listening to music on your car radio. There's a point at which, you hear a song, you turn it up. There's a date at which that stops in terms of new music. And maybe you're a super progressive person and you're still doing that, but you are the exception. I had a law partner who clearly stopped listening to music in the late 70s, back in the day. And you just knew where it was. It was easy to tell. I try to think of that, when I do that. My kids, I've tried to see, are you still listening to new things, or do you wait? And even the idea of turning up your car radio is a little different. It's not necessarily the local station playing the music. It may be your streaming service. So I guess what I'm saying is, I was comfortable in sports when it was the Big Ten and 10 was 10. I understand the markets. I'm not an old fuddy-duddy. I understand you want to bring in markets on the East Coast. That's why they brought in Rutgers. I understand that you want to bring in the markets on the West Coast, and that's why they brought in those former Pac-10, Pac-12 teams. But now, where do you go from here? Because the money only gets bigger, and you may decide what you have to do to stay in the game. I mean, if you're at Ohio State and you're the athletic director, your football team has to do well. And of course, they just won the national championship. So that's a great thing, but you got to keep going. And what do? How do you keep up with the Joneses? In the case, the Joneses are Texas and the schools we just mentioned. So we're going to look at that and see what, for example, is football its own thing, and then everybody else the powers that are make more regional to avoid. I mean, travel. We used to talk in minor league baseball, and I worked in minor league baseball. We used to, the phrase was flying is dying. And man, there's a lot of flying in college sports. Has to be. Couldn't do it otherwise. And maybe get back to a more bus-driven, with the non-so-called. I say so-called because football is a non-revenue sport at a vast majority of after high school sites, whether it's junior college or whatever. So be interesting to see. But listening to that conversation really created a lot of questions for me. Some of them looking at the legal structure. And so we'll look at it, get back to you. I hope this week. If not, it'll be a major topic. Next week, we'll try to line up some people that know more than I, but we'll try to break it down to see what will the face of college sports be as we go forward, and how quickly will that happen. So that is not necessarily ugly, but one thing that is ugly, NHL playoffs last night. I don't know if folks watched that. The first two games were awesome. They were split, the two games in Edmonton. Really fun hockey. And a lot of people are saying, this is what it's supposed to be about. Well, the teams turned the page on that last night in Sunrise, Florida, because it was just ugly. Just not, I cover the Blue Jackets for CBUS Sports, have made a lot of good contacts there, enjoy the game, can't play it, so just kind of a fanboy covering the sport because I've just come to really enjoy it. And last night there were points where I looked away, where I said, well, what's going on other channel? What am I missing out on tonight? And watching this instead. It was a 6-1 game. Edmonton goes down to defeat at Florida. And Florida was doing Florida things. They have been known to just kind of, Dennis Miller used to call it jeter up to the edge and do what you can do to irritate the other team. And that was in years gone by. They have added now the irritant king of the NHL, and Brad Marchand, who's a really good hockey player. But he's the kind of guy, I saw him in Edmonton. He skated by Connor McDavid and just, got into his line enough to just knock shoulders together. That kind of stuff. Stuff you see on the football field a lot when guys walk off and they just have to walk into somebody slightly just to trigger him a little bit. Marchand is just the king of that. He's the king. He scored the first goal and then started pointing to his head like, you guys need to play smart, to the Edmonton bench. He's just that guy who you love to have on your team because he can deflect from you playing and let you just play your game. But when he's on the other side, wow. And Edmonton took the bait. There's just no other way to say it. They have a different game. That is not their game. They can play. They have a physical style when they want to be, but it's not that. It's not getting under somebody's skin and trying to make them something different. They have two of the best players to ever suit up in McDavid and Draisaitl, and a good supporting cast. But they decided they were going to answer the irritation with over-the-top physicality. They were the second man in the fight all night long. I mean, they took 21 penalties last night. 21, that's 7 a period. It was easy. I could do the math. 21 penalties for 85 penalty minutes. Now, again, there are some 10-minute or game misconducts that were going on, so that's a lot. I mean, that can add up quickly. I mean, Florida had 14 penalties. Can't divide that by 3, unfortunately. So they had 14 total. And they were for 55 minutes. So you had 140 minutes of penalty time last night. You had 35 penalties. That just can't. I mean, that is the ugly part of the sport. And even though, I mean, you could talk about fighting and whether it's appropriate or not, or whether it's good for the game or not. And that usually divides into 2 camps. You know, there are folks who like the bigger arenas in Europe where you can skate more freely, you know, the Olympics, compared to what you have in the NHL, a little closer and requires some more contact. Doesn't reward the pure skaters as much. But I think we had a pretty good balance going this year and in the finals, in the Stanley Cup finals. But Florida just finally got under Edmonton's skin to the point where Edmonton thought, instead of using their speed and their talent and their ability to move the puck around, they decided to kind of fight back. And it was not a good look, and it was disastrous for the Oilers. I'll be interested to see what they do on Thursday, their next game, and it's at Florida Thursday, with now the Panthers up 2-1. But, I mean, we had the point where they were squirting a water bottle at the Florida bench. I mean, come on. And they decided what they were going to do is they went after Sam Bennett, who had just been eating them alive. You know, not just scoring goals, but just playing well. And so Trent Frederick cross-checked him, broke his own stick in the process, pulled him back. I mean, he knew he was just trying to get a penalty. He was just trying to show everybody. And then that just led to mayhem. I mean, Darnell Nurse and Jonah Gadjevich went at it. More than a 2-minute fight. Referees, I thought they did okay, trying to let the game be the game and step in, but they let that one go too long, I thought. There were a couple of points where I think both of those guys, I mean, what's interesting about fighting is, and we've learned that if you're a Blue Jackets fan, when you have somebody like Matthew Olivier, who I think is the toughest guy in the league, and one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player to watch, because he's also a good player. He's been scoring goals, and really one of the tragedies this season for him is I don't know what I think the injury was akin to breaking his hand. It might have been something with a tendon in a finger. But he still played because that's him. But he wasn't a full go, and he was a leader on the offense. I mean, he was a scorer and had a bunch of helpers, and I thought just played really well, but hurt himself in a fight. And again, you can go back and talk about whether it's a good thing or bad thing, but what happened last night in that third period was a bad thing. It was bad for the look of hockey. You always talk about, like in the Super Bowl, teams respect each other. You don't see as many penalties, that kind of thing. Wow. I mean, it was a wave that just swept over that third period last night. 35 penalties in the game. That is just 140 penalty minutes. And again, I think a lot of it was people, it was Edmonton trying to keep up with the bully. And that's just not their game. And I hope, again, Florida's going to be Florida no matter what. They're going to do their thing. But Edmonton needs to be Edmonton, not some minor league version of Florida. And I hope that changes for Thursday. Now, there is going to have to be a decision. Chris Knobloch, the coach for Edmonton, is going to have to make a decision. He pulled Stuart Skinner, the goalie, last night. He said later, not really because of his inadequacy as much as it was just the way the game was going. Sometimes that happens. I mean, there's just, even if you can't stop things because the defense isn't helping you, sometimes it's just better make a change. They got Calvin Pickard in there. Well, we'll see who plays. I mean, is that a major decision? We'll see Thursday. So that's what you're going to look for Thursday is, does Edmonton decide to be Edmonton, which they were in both the win out of the gate and then the loss at home, but they played their game. But boy, what we've learned is if you add Marchand to the Florida Panthers, it gets edgier for sure. And he's not going to be the guy taking all the penalties. He may take one here and there, but of those, and I didn't look to see what he had last night, but he's not coming close to a majority of 14 penalties last night for Florida. But again, 30, I'm just going to say it one more time because it's crazy. 35 penalties combined last night for 140 minutes. Crazy. So anyway, look for the who's in goal for Edmonton on Thursday. It'll be at Sunrise, Florida. One more, well, maybe not one more time, but at least next time. And it'll be on TNT, I believe. That will be, again, I put it in the wrong place. Thursday, right. Okay, there it is. Thursday at Florida. Florida up 2-1. All right. There's nothing tonight. And that's unfortunate because I think people are in the mood now just to alternate between the NBA and the NHL. I don't know if those venues there's stuff going on there or whatever, but it seems a little silly to not just because they're covered by ESPN and TNT just to watch them go back and forth. Or not ESPN, but ABC. And so it'll be interesting to see if that changes up down, when you get to five. Maybe they've already got all that scheduled. And I think it's pretty much each night after this break. I don't know. We'll look. But the NBA doesn't play. The point is the NBA doesn't play until tomorrow. Wednesday in Indianapolis be game 3. Series tied at 1-1. So there you go. Look forward to that. And I don't think there'll be a lot of changes there, except we'll see if Halliburton is back into his scoring mode in a way that's meaningful for the Pacers, because that was the thing. I think, one of the few things that was missing in game 2 for Indianapolis. So we'll see them tomorrow and then hockey Thursday. Tonight, the Columbus Clippers get going again. They had yesterday off to travel to Buffalo. They will be taking on the Bisons, and it is with an S there. Some teams don't add the S. And they do that collective noun for their team, but it is the Buffalo Bisons. I'm thinking about colleges where it is Bison, and you just got to really work hard to get it right. But anyway, they play tonight, 6:35. I'm just waxing on today. But the player I want you to look for in the place for Buffalo, a fellow by the name of Will Robertson. Their best hitter, he's leading them in the Triple Crown categories, average, home runs batted in, 27-year-old player. Never been up to the parent club for Buffalo. That's the Toronto Blue Jays. He is... last year, and again, I think he's ready to be ready soon. He's going to compete with Nathan Lukes up there at Toronto. But last year, Robertson hit 226. Right now, he's hitting 288, striking out far less. So I think he's righted himself in that category, not just a power hitter, again, left fielder, if I didn't say that. And he looks poised to move up. But he will be in the lineup tonight for sure for Buffalo as the Clippers play there. And you can listen to all the action. I don't get paid for this, but I just feel strongly about it. I was a minor league play-by-play guy for a long time, and one of my favorites, Ryan Mitchell, will be calling the game again for the Clippers. And he will do that on, I love listening to the radio. I'll put it on the porch later tonight. It will be on 9:20 a.m. That's Fox Sports 920 on the AM dial. And it'll be Ryan Mitchell with the call. Yesterday, and I just want to repeat this in case you didn't hear it yesterday, but we had some award winners that we named. We're still efforting. I think that's one of those 21st century words. We're efforting in terms of a verb. I know the word effort, but as a verb, we're working on designing some awards. But these are the awards that we handed out yesterday based on the OHSAA track and field meet this past weekend at Jesse Owens Memorial Stadium here in Columbus on the Ohio State campus. The best girls athlete we gave to Celia Schulte, who was a junior at Hilliard-Davidson. She set a record in the 800, which was 2:04.65, so 2 minutes, 4 seconds, 4.65 seconds, which broke the Ohio High School Division I record, the Division I state meet, and the Jesse Owens Memorial Stadium record. So that's a lot of doing right there in a couple of times around the track. She also anchored the 4x800 relay team for Davidson, and then was part of the fourth place team in the 4x400. The runner-up, who sadly may not get an award, was Grace Alls from Pickerington Central, who was first in the 400 meters and on the winning 4x200 relay. So best girls athlete, Celia Schulte. Well, we thought a lot about Grace Halls as well. Best boys athlete goes to Jaden Smith, a senior at Afrocentric, who won both the 400 and 200. And you hear a lot about people winning 100 and 200, but he won 200 and 400, and that is exhausting because those races are not that far apart in the day, and 400 now known as a dash. And he won them both, and that just takes a lot of doing. So hats off to Jaden Smith, who won our best boys athlete. Our best freshman was Brittany Douglas from Beechcroft. She was, and is a freshman now. She was second in the 100-meter hurdles, fourth in the girls 4x100-meter relay, and third in the 300-meter hurdles. So really good performances at both hurdle events. She is our best freshman. And then our special award goes to the Pickerington Central relay teams. They won the girls 4x200, the girls 4x100, second in the boys 4x200, girls 4x400, and third in the boys 4x100. What does that all mean? They got really good relay teams. And so we created a special award that I guess will go to the coaching staff out there at Pick Central. Really good day. So what we're trying to do is I think we're coming up with some really cheap but well-designed and fun plaques for the winners and a gift certificate. And if we're allowed to give a gift certificate, I want it to be for donuts. Because once you're done with the track season, I think you should eat donuts. So that's what we're looking for. We've got baseball coming up this week. We won't go too deep into that. We'll do that tomorrow. But the baseball state finals coming up, and we've got 3 teams that will be following their Division I. It'll be Olentangy, and the Braves will be playing Lakota West in the semis on Saturday. In Division II, it's New Albany, and they will be playing Amherst Steel on Friday at 10 in the morning. That is early for any sport ever. And they'll be playing that actually. Both those first 2 games we were talking about will be at Thurman Munson Memorial Stadium in Canton. And then Newark Catholic playing in Division 7. And they will be playing Tiffin Calvert. But that one will be at Canal Park in Akron on Thursday at 1 o'clock. So we'll talk more about those tomorrow, identify the good players and people to look for if you're going up there or if you're watching online. Or we'll just talk about all that so you can take that in, because that is the last competition of the Ohio high school season and ushers in summertime for those of us that like to cover high school sports. Last thing I really want to talk to you about, and really I have no answer here other than to say that we are, one of the things, and we've been doing this now for the CBUS Sports thing for over 2 years. We're getting closer to 2.5 years of doing this, and we've tried hard because right now we are not behind a paywall. We're trying to think about revenue source so we can keep going and in fact expand our coverage. And I've had some good discussions about that for a couple of months now. And, we're looking at things like selling our photos from high school and college that we're allowed to sell them for. For example, we can't, because we're not a print newspaper, we can't sell state events when they get to the state semis. We're not allowed to do that online. Though we can take pictures and put them with our news stories, but we can't do a gallery of those and we can't sell them. And that's just a rule that's been around for a long time. May change. I think they're going to be looking at that. We hope they do because, today print newspapers are doing those sorts of things online. So we're direct competitors with that. But we want to, we may be able to charge a paltry sum to help us pay for the photographers to go to more events. We want to look at maybe doing some membership on a platform like Patreon, where we give some additional content to folks here in town, whether that be in the form of a newsletter or access to feature stories that we're going to look at doing, especially in the fall. We're going to start doing some this summer, and maybe behind the scene videos or some additional video content. So we're trying to, it may be merch and there is discussion. The funny thing is you realize your age sometimes when I actually designed the incredibly sophisticated CBUS Sports logo. I'm very proud of that. But I've been told by well-meaning humans who I like that it might be a little old, a little outdated. And I see that. Still like it. There's just something about it. And it literally was created in about 10 minutes, and not with AI, by the way, which I know you're going to be surprised at because it's so sophisticated. But we're talking about maybe doing some merch, and maybe we'll do that as an old archived retro logo from us, and we'll do a new one too. So we'll see about that. But of course, if you have any ideas to help us figure out how to maintain but then expand our coverage of Central Ohio sports, we would love to hear from you. You can always get hold of us about a story that you think we should look at, pictures, photos, art that should be taken. And you can do that by sending it to info@cbussports.com, and there are 2 S's in the middle there. So info@cbussports.com. Let us know what you're thinking, how we can, get better. We're only 2.5 years old. We're barely walking, and we want to get better, but we're looking at maybe doing a relaunch of sorts. We're going to keep the website up all summer and do what we can. There's tons to cover in the summer. We don't want to give up on our Clippers. Maybe in the second half, they'll rise to the top. They're not going to in the first half. But we want to be around when they do. And we want to do, there are things that happen in the summer with all the teams. We're going to have the NHL draft will be coming up. So the Blue Jackets will be part of that big watch party at Nationwide Arena. And, along with the Clippers and, the Crew is continuing to play. We want to cover them more. Kevin Lamb has done some great photos for them on our photo gallery page. You just click on photos and there they are. So we want to continue to cover all that. But when we get to the fall, we want to make sure that we're giving the athletes around town their due. That's what continually drives us, is because I played a very little bit, blew a knee out. That's a long story. But my 4 kids all played here in Grandview where we are, where the studio is, and had a great time. And the This Week papers were around. People like my really good friend, Scott Hennon, covered Grandview for the Tri-Village News. And then this week, Grandview, when the Dispatch bought the Suburban papers. And my kids really, that was a great time. They look forward to getting the papers, seeing if they might be in it, and then working harder to get in it when they weren't. And boy, those kids all work super hard. So we just want to be able to cover that. We also, there's some great stories in, the smaller sports around town, whether it's Ohio State's non-revenue or the other colleges in town. We have 2 NCAC teams in Ohio Wesleyan and Denison. Denison had a great year in a lot of sports this year. Won the national title in men's tennis, for example. And then in the OAC, having Capital and Otterbein, great rivalry, always playing for the OR. And that's OAR. And in every game or match or meet that they compete, some great stories there. So we want to continue to do those because, those of us who have been around it, my dad was a sports announcer since before I was born. So I've been around it my whole life, and I just think there's a lot of lessons from it. I think there's a lot of great stories. So I'll get off the soapbox, but we want to figure out the best way to do it. And we want to make sure that we're covering, for example, with high schools, all the high schools. We have great smaller high schools. We've got a city league that deserves to be covered. We've got, obviously, the burbs all around 270 and outside. So we want to continue to do that. You got ideas, info@cbussports.com. We hope that you will let us know. All right. I'll step off the box and let's look at our trivia question. Yesterday we asked, as we wind things up here, we asked what U.S. track and field athlete has the most Olympic medals? That's what we asked because we were just coming off the state track meet. So what U.S. track and field athlete has the most Olympic medals? And the answer to that, not that long ago, Allison Felix, who has 11 Olympic medals, 7 gold, 3 silver, 1 bronze. She competed in the Olympics from 2004 to 2020. And she ran the 100 meters, the 200 meters, and the 400 meters, and some relays too. West Coast, California native, Allison Felix is the answer. She won 11 medals in her time, 7 of them gold. If the question would have been, which track and field athlete has the most gold medals from the U.S., that would be Carl Lewis, who had 9 gold medals. He had 10 total. He also had a silver in there, but 9 gold medals. He has the most. Allison Felix had 7, but she has the most with 11 total. So there you go. Little extra information. Our question today, because of last night's, I called a boxing match, but it was a hockey game. That was the old joke. I went to a boxing match and a hockey game rang out or something. I don't tell it well. But today's question is, what NHL player had the most penalty minutes in their career? So what NHL player had the most penalty minutes in their career? We'll answer that one for you tomorrow. And if you want to, there's a really good question coming out of that too, is which NHL player that's in the Hall of Fame? What Hall of Fame player what player in the NHL Hall of Fame has the most penalty minutes? It's not the person that is the most ever. It's not in the Hall of Fame. So a much easier name to come up with is the NHL player in the Hall of Fame with the most penalty minutes. Prepositional phrases are my downfall today, trying to get them in the right place. So that's the question for tomorrow. And we hope that you will join us then. And nothing in terms of national sports tonight, unless you're baseball. By the way, baseball, the Reds, who I grew up a fan of, they won, is it called the Ohio Cup? As they beat the Guardians, and so they have won 4 out of the 4 games they've played. They will play 6 total, but the Reds, and they haven't had it for 10 years, they get the cup back, and they will play again tonight. So you can watch that game, whether you're on the Cincinnati side or the Cleveland side. And then we'll get back to the NBA on Wednesday and the NHL on Thursday. Hey, thanks for coming along. We're going to look into college and money and what's gone on so far this summer, what will go on. And we're going to try to figure out what awards we're giving away to those high school track and field athletes. All right, that'll do it. So from Studio B, I'm Kevin Rouch. This has been the Daily Scrum.